Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Disruptive Adventism. I want to update you on a situation. Our graphic designer, Felipe Mendez, he lost everything due to a fire on his apartment complex over the weekend, and we are trying to help him out to get back on his feet. If you would like to donate, there's a GoFundMe link below, and we hope that you enjoyed this podcast, but let us remember the importance of digital media is to help people. So if you can help, we'll really appreciate that. And thank you for your support.
Okay, so I grew up in a little country town, and it's funny.
This is Kelly Czaykowsky. She runs the refugee program called F.R.E.E.
Maybe 10 years old, I get off the school bus, which is funny because it was like an hour school bus ride, and we're kind of like in our own little world and our own little fences there where I grew up, and didn't know a lot about the outside world. And I brought a National Geographic, and this was when a lot of stuff was going on in Africa, and I was crying and saying, when I get older, one day I'm going to help these people. And I was really upset that night, and I really didn't even understand, honestly. I couldn't define what a refugee was until 10 years ago. I just didn't really know. You don't hear about refugees. You just think, as an American growing up here with not a lot of knowledge about the foreign world and what really happens if you don't abide by all these rules, because we've been in America, which is freedom of speech, and everything that we get here is taken away when you live in certain parts of the world. So for me, I really didn't understand or grasp what it was to be a refugee until I started this organization.
That organization is called F.R.E.E., Friends of Refugees for Education and Empowerment, a charity dedicated to serve refugees in the most diverse square mile in America, located in Clarkston, Georgia. Kelly, the founder of this organization, is not wrong. Most Americans don't know what refugees are, where they live, and how to help them. It is estimated that 51% of Americans still believe in accepting refugees, but the numbers keep dropping year after year according to Pew Research. I didn't even know some interesting facts before interviewing Kelly.
So when I think of the word refugee, my heart breaks, because I look at people that have been through so much to basically just put it all in the trash, throw it all away, and have to, not by choice, but have to start all over again. Like one of our pastors told me, Miss Kelly, I'm like a newborn baby. You have to do everything for me. And he had an education. He had a 4-year degree. He was from Burma. But when you arrive here, it's nothing. It means nothing to America. You're starting over, brand new. Your language, your clothing, your furniture, your home. A refugee arrives with what's on their back. They have to repay. You set up a payment plan within 6 months to repay you and your family's flight to get here, wherever you arrive in America. You have to pay that back to United Nations. And so when I hear refugee, I just, my heart just breaks, because it's a misconception. It's not like they wake up one day and say, hey, better life over here. Yes, they do love it here, but the trauma and the torment that they had to go through to arrive here is just unbelievable.
If that's the case, then why did you start this charity?
Okay, so we started F.R.E.E. around 9 years ago when I heard about a group of refugee kids that were begging for better education than what they were receiving. They were all currently receiving public education, but the issue they were having was the school that they were all attended was just oversaturated with refugee kids, and the refugee parents did not have the ability, because they were not educated at a level to help our kids pass second and third grade. So they were falling through the cracks. So they would become seniors and still go work at chicken factories and minimal wage paying jobs because they had no education, and they couldn't, go to college because they didn't meet the criteria for college. So I had attended a school board meeting, and one of the superintendents was telling me about these kids that just were holding on to his legs, and the parents were crying, and they said, don't feed us, don't clothe us. Just please, please educate our kids. And that's when we first started looking into starting F.R.E.E.
And do you work in the education sector?
So originally, it's funny, we start off with education only, but when you start a ministry or a charity, you always start off with one goal. And then as the days go on, you see the needs are so great. So you might start off with education. So me personally, I'm in the medical field. I'm an occupational therapist, but we started off as the charity with education only. Then we noticed the kids didn't have transportation. When we would find them scholarships to attend safe, schools, private schools, they wouldn't have transportation. And then we noticed that their shoes were too big or too tight. One girl, I remember her, she just actually graduated 8th grade a couple of days ago, and we'll be helping her get into a boarding school for her high school years. But I remember her getting off the bus. Her name was Sophia, and she was crying, holding her stomach. And at that point, she was in 2nd grade. And I asked her what was wrong, and she was telling me her stomach was hurting because she didn't eat. And I realized, these kids aren't eating breakfast. So then we started doing breakfast and then lunch, and then we would send snacks home that they could have to eat. And it's not because they're lazy. It's just they didn't have food in their house. So we currently are not only doing education, we do counseling for the parents. We do ESL classes on the weekend for the parents. We do clothes. We do trips to the dentist. We do haircuts. We help with summer jobs. We just food and clothes and just mentor soccer classes, ukulele classes, basically everything you can think of that a community provides, we at F.R.E.E. provide.
As you heard, F.R.E.E. is providing food, transportation, counseling, and other services. And as responsibilities have mounted upon them, challenges and difficulties have come their way. After the break, Kelly continues sharing with us on the journey that F.R.E.E. has taken in the areas of finances, personal growth, and their needs as an organization. You have an idea. You want to tell it to the world, but you don't know where to start. That's where Anchor comes in. They have the tools for you to edit, produce, and record your idea right from your phone or computer. It's the easiest way to reach and grow your audience. They publish for you to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. And to top it all off, they match you with advertisers so you can earn from your passion and your wonderful idea. So tell me, what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and follow your dream. You're listening to Disruptive Adventism, and today we're talking with Kelly Czaykowsky about her organization, F.R.E.E., Friends of Refugees for Education and Empowerment. When I asked her how she handles stress, this is what she said.
Oh my goodness, it's funny that you say that because I just have to laugh because I think stress is just a part of running a charity. I've had, many people that have started their charities after me, and they come and, meet me and they ask me for advice, and I just have to tell them, you truly, truly have to learn how to give it to God, which I really didn't understand that for the first probably 4 or 5 years, because it's just our human nature to want to have all of our T's crossed and our I's dotted. So, when bills are coming in, because ministry is definitely not free. Thank God salvation is, but the ministry part of it is not. The transportation, the uniforms, the school supplies, the rent, the tuition, the food, the lunches. So that's the biggest stress would be the financial burden that we carry, because you're not helping one family, you're helping, 93 different kids. And so I just think, yes, obviously the stress is really sometimes just more than my personal life that I do. The charity stress outweighs a lot. But even though I might not have the resources at the time in the bank account, I just have to give it to God. If not, then the stress takes away from the joy that I receive from the day-to-day smiles and the day-to-day hugs that, the refugees you give me. And I never want to lose any of that. So I just have to give it to God and really understand if this is his plan and his desire, it will all work out. It's not my plan. I want to help everyone, but I have to know that God, wants people to be helped and served more than I do.
At what time or at what point in time do you feel like there was a lot of setbacks per se, or, challenges in this ministry? You've been running for 10 years now?
Yes. So I think the biggest setbacks was one, financially, because you start off with 12 kids. We did actually start with 12 kids, and we currently have 93. So I think the biggest setback is when people, these refugee parents, they see the success and they feel that their kids are safe. You start with 12, and then they tell their family, they tell their cousins and their nieces and nephew. And so the biggest setback was having, just to say no, because you can't say yes to everyone. I wish we could, but we're at our limit now with 93 kids. Our bus only holds 73. And then the other kids are attending different schools. But I think that's our biggest setback, is not being able to, ease the burden of all the people when you hear their needs and you see their tears and you feel their pain and you have to say no. And that's mainly because of a lack of resources, as I would assume a lot of charities and ministries all face.
So how do you determine who gets in and who gets out? I mean, you started with 12, now you have 93, you said?
Correct. So the way we determined that was, at the beginning, it was a bunch of family members. And then we reached out to different groups. For example, we were helping a lot of the Karen people, and then we started helping Chin. And then now we've tapped into the Congo group. And that's how we determined, basically, was word of mouth. But now, since the demand is so high, we actually do an application, and then we filter through. First, we do like siblings. Like, we currently have your sibling, a part of our group. We obviously take siblings first, so we don't have to split up the family. And then after that, we determine it based on your location and your need. And we also assess your academic level to make sure that you can make it through, that this would be the right choice for you.
What would you say was your initial motivation to start this program?
I think my initial motivation was just the fact that I'm a mom of 5 kids. And when I heard about Niang, so Niang is currently a junior in college, and we started helping her when she was in 6th grade, and we are helping her even to this day. I heard about her being in the refugee camp in Burma, and she had guns pulled to her head, and they captured her family while they were trying to flee for safety. And she just remembers praying and crying that, God would save them. And they ended up in Georgia, and then we ended up meeting each other. And then, her prayer was, she said from the time she could pray that she would get American, Christian education. So, to me, that just inspired me so much, because of the fact that God answered her prayer, and I was, chosen to be the one he used, which to me is such a blessing.
How do you think he chose you? I mean, you're saying that, you put this together on your own. Did you have any help from other people, the community surrounding you?
Okay, yeah. So first, it was just myself and 2 of my girlfriends. We got together and we started filling out different applications for a grant that helps kids that don't have a choice of education. So that's how we started off first, me and 2 other people. And then I just feel like I was chosen maybe because if you allow your heart to be open and your mind as well to be open, and God knows what your strengths are, and he knows what gifts that he's given you. So if you allow him to use you as he sees in his plan, then all the other doors, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but all the other doors will open for you during the struggles and the tribulations. the doors will always, maybe not in your timing, but in his timing, will open. And then the next goal, the next plan, the next road that you need to venture on, he will set forth, before you.
How has your organization shifted in administration, goals, purposes throughout these 10 years?
I think the biggest way it shifted is couldn't do it all on my own because we do have so many things that we try to juggle. I think at first, we try to do it out of my Suburban. I would load my Suburban up with food and clothes and try to put 15 kids, no joke, in my Suburban. So I think that's how it shifted is we've grown so much that we had to get an apartment. We've had to reach out to different volunteers. We have to get a full-time person to run the community center, as well as we've been blessed with 2 student missionaries that we get for a year. And without those resources, as far as physical energy, I don't think we would be able to accomplish everything. So I think the main thing that shifted is going from 1 or 2 people doing everything to now we have like a good 10 people that do stuff daily.
As you heard Kelly, their staff has increased. The number of kids has as well. Things have been going very well for them. But something that kind of struck me was why? Something that was looming for me at the time when I was doing this interview is what are the challenges of working with refugees in 2019? She started in 2010, a very different social, economic, and political climate during that time. The news outlets were not replete as they are today with the word refugee, and sometimes today they're not referred in the best manner. Travel bans, crisis, and other buzzwords floated around my head as I asked her if the political change in the parties had affected her charity.
For us, not personally. I do know it has affected some people that are arriving from certain countries. They've put a hold on those countries. But for us personally, no, because we already have that connection with thousands of refugees. And the resources that we receive are, the donations are from people that we've been connected with now for years, and they've been on the ground with us and they see what we do. So I would have to say, as far as my charity and what we do, it hasn't really affected us. I think it scared a lot of refugees and the family they still have, because we help people from over 60 different countries. So obviously some of those countries were being, pinpointed with the political statements and stuff. But we try not to let it affect us emotionally or mentally, because we see the person and we know who they are, and we just continue to love and support. And political things are going to change day by day. Depends on what's happening, who's in charge. But our love, will stay the same.
I was glad to hear that politics had not played a role in their ministry. One of the last questions that I asked Kelly was if she ever felt like quitting. This is what she had to say.
I don't know if I've ever really felt like quitting, but there's been times that I have kind of like banged my head against the wall. Not literally, but, and just like, I've taken on too much this year. What if it fails and we can't pay our bills, or what if these kids don't pass and, we look like we didn't succeed and everyone thinks that maybe this isn't something that they want to partner with. All I do is I go back and I look at these kids and I look at their faces. I look at them from when they were 6 years old and I started helping them, and now they're 16 years old. And I hear the parents say, "Thank you, Miss Kelly, and thank you for loving my kid like they're your kids." And then I just know that, even if I don't see my reward now, I know one day I will. If one life can be blessed, be touched, when we get to heaven and they come up to me and say, it's because of you, Miss Kelly, I chose this path, then that's what keeps me going, because this world is just a temporary place. And all the jobs and everything I do is not going to ever suffice or even hold up to touching one person's life.
When you see the progression of people, the different students that have come throughout in the multiple years that have been here, that have gone through the program, are you happy that you started?
Oh my goodness. Happy is an understatement. It is amazing the joy that you feel when you see a kid who had no hope and no goals in their life, just dreams, what they thought were dreams. And you're seeing these dreams become reality as the same that you see with your own kids. Because my kids, for example, they always knew that they wanted to be, for example, one of my boys always wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Well, he's currently studying to take his medical exam. Like, it wasn't only a dream, but it was a reality. Well, a lot of these refugee kids, it's just a dream because you're locked up in refugee camps. People don't realize, but you're not allowed to leave those camps. You get one blanket every year. You get your food and they ration off to you as far as the water. You might have to walk. One of our boys had to walk a mile to go get his water every day. So it's a dream for them when they're laying in those little refugee huts that they build. And so it's amazing to me that these dreams for these kids are now reality as the same as our kids.
Those dreams are in the making. So please listen carefully to what Kelly has to say to you and I so we can help refugees in our communities.
About refugees, I would encourage you to look at our website, which is freerefugees.org. And look in your community, and maybe you don't have refugees, but you do have people that just need, maybe that day just need a smile, or maybe you do have someone in your community that's struggling and might need food or might need, resources in order to stay somewhere, until they get back on their feet. My advice would just be, don't judge someone, because we never know where our life can be even tomorrow. But when you decide to go out and change one's life, to pray about it and let God lead you. And then also let this be an opportunity that you create a new peace and a new joy within yourself. And don't set limits for yourself. If I set limits for myself 10 years ago, I would probably be at like 5, 6 kids now instead of 93. And we wouldn't have the community center, and we wouldn't, be giving out food, and we wouldn't have a bus, and I could go on and on and on. So I think never set limits for yourself. Just go with the passion and the love and the desire, and everything else will fall in place after that.
You've been listening to Disruptive Adventism. We hope that today's topic helped you to think and change something about your practices, about your faith, about your Adventism. If you want to subscribe, make sure to go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcast. We'll be there. And make sure to give us a review if you like what you're listening to. If you want to support, make sure to go to patreon.com/disruptiveadventism. It helps us pay our bills and produce the content that you're listening to. And if you want to socialize, make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram or on Twitter, and hit us up whenever you need anything. We'll be there to support you. Thank you for listening today. We hope you join us next time. And as always, we invite you to be disruptive. This podcast is brought to you by our supporters on patreon.com and coffee.com. Our supporters are the backbone of the podcast, and we are very thankful for all of you. Your contributions allow us to seek the best ideas and disruptors in the world and bring you podcasts that energize, transform, and change your community. We hope you take courage and join our one-time contributors through coffee.com or our monthly ones on patreon.com. You'll get amazing merch and early access to our unedited interviews and produced podcasts. If you want to contribute, hit the links in the description below. And thank you.